Hello and welcome back. We're now at Laggan locks and we're still heading westward to the sea. And the good news is all the locks from now on are downhill. So from now on it gets very easy indeed. So this is us leaving Laggan locks, and it's called Laggan locks because there is two of them. The second lock I've never actually seen closed. We're just going to pass it any second now. And on our starboard hand now is another one of the higher boat bases. It's based in the Caledonian Canal. The yachts you can see with the red furlers are actually hire yachts, so it's not just motor crews you'll see on the canal, there are yachts for hire as well. This is us just entering Loch Lochy now. As you can see, quite a nice day today, behaving itself. And we've got extensive forestry on both sides of Loch Lochy. Snow on the mountaintops, it's still early in the year yet. Rest here as we head west down Loch Lochy. The road you can see in the back shot there is the A82, a road we've crossed quite a few times already, and we'll cross again before we're finished. Panoramic for you here of Loch Lochy. The mountain you can see coming to the centre of the screen now is Ben Nevis. That's your first real view of it. Anyway, Loch Lochy's pretty devoid of places to kind of stop or rest up. The bay that's just going to come into shot now on the starboard side would be one option for anchoring. roaring noise you can hear in the background now isn't my wind generator for a change, or even the extensive wind we've had on this trip. It's actually a guy on this old ex-pilot boat here doing what's technically known as an Italian tune-up, so the smoke isn't actually the boat on fire, that's unburnt fuel you see in there. Barnaby Lock here is very, very deep, and if you're heading west to east, they'll invariably drop ropes down to you. It's a hell of a throw to try and get a rope up that wall, and, so be prepared for that if you're coming in the other direction. And this is the swing bridge at Barnaby here. And you'll see the other side of the bridge there is another lock here. I've never actually seen this lock closed. I think it's really just a stop lock in case we have torrential weather or what have you. I think it's too much water in the lock system. This is us approaching my bridge now. This has got to be the cutest bridge on the whole canal system. The whole thing is manual. You'll see on the right hand bridge here, the guy stood there and he's winding a big wheel and that's what swings the bridge open. And then I've gone through, he'll close the bridge behind me and get in the weeport. You can just see just coming into shot down on the right hand side of the picture there. Toodles back across the canal and then closes the other side bridge. It's a good job, I suppose. A nice job in nice surroundings, and it must save my fortune in gym membership. Thank you. There's a man winding away to close the bridge. And here we are approaching the moorings at Banavie. Now, Banavie here, it's a bit of a bottleneck. So there's plenty of moorings on both your starboard and your port hand side. Don't be tempted to run right down on the starboard side and moor up on the wall. You will get moved back by the lock keepers. They tend to use those moorings for the bigger craft waiting to descend down the Banavie flight, otherwise known as Neptune's staircase. So we'll just park up here. My intention is to go down tomorrow, descending the staircase, and then straight out to sea. this is us going for a wee wander now to go and have a look at the staircase. There's Ben Nevis, and this is the staircase fight from the top. Neptune staircase, as it's called. All the locks, with the exception of the top lock, are identical. So it's just a repetitive procedure, one after the other, dropping down, and the system that's used here on these locks is to walk your boat down effectively. That's the best way to do it. So if you're single-handed, one of the lock keepers give you a hand, but normally they'll expect at least one crew member to go ashore with a lock keeper. And a wee panoramic now swinging round. And this is the bottom of Neptune's staircase, so you can see we've got rail bridge, road bridge, Ben Nevis in the background again. What about our day today? Quite sunny. And that's looking up the flight, all the way up. It's quite a long old way when you're coming down. This is the next morning. As you can see, it's not the best of days. It's pretty soggy. Just getting sorted out, ropes off, and ready to start on the first lock to go down the staircase. You get a little brief off the lock keepers as to what order you're going in the lock and who's doing what and where. So the order today is Cascade, there's another vessel of Bavaria, and then there's a big steel ketch, which is one of these round Britain ketches that does a few voyages around Britain in a year. Normally they like the bigger boats to go in first, and once they're in, once we fellas can go in then and find our own place, as it were. And this is coming into the top flight lock here, and just out of shot here is the big steel ketch I was talking about. You can just see its back end coming into the picture there. We'll tie up here, and then the other vessel is going to toodle in behind us. That's the Bavaria. Here it comes now, and I'm just leaning back on the ropes. And this first lock, I've still actually got my engine running at the moment. And this is me just remembering that I haven't put my life jacket on. Life jackets are not compulsory, believe it or not, for when you're transiting the canal. But I would say the inner locks are pretty sensible more than anything else, really, especially when you're single-handed. So as you can see here, I've got both the lines for the boat in my hand, and I don't put any bowlines onto the hooks on the side or anything like that. Some people like to do that. I just prefer to have clean-ended ropes so that if anything goes wrong, they just slip straight off. So there's no problem. The vessel behind me, and you'll see it in a couple of shots in future, he's dropping a ball in over the hook, and then he's took it back to a cockpit winch. I've seen it done by single-handers before. It's personal preference, really. It's whatever you like. And as you can see, we've now employed the standard system that's used on the Bannerby flight, which is manhauling your boat down the locks. And essentially what happens, if you're single-handed, the skipper takes the stern rope and the lockkeeper takes the bow rope. The idea being that you pull the weight and not him, because he has to do it at least 4 times a day, up and down. So what we'll do now is we'll pull this boat along this lock and then tie it up momentarily, and then I'll pop back on board and I'll actually knock the engine off, and then I won't get back on board the boat again until we've reached the very bottom of the Bannerby flight and we're waiting for the road and rail bridges to open. So this is me now shutting down the engine. We won't be needing that for a good while. And this is us actually at the bottom of the Bannerby flight, so I climbed back on board before we started to drop down the lock. I was just stood on the side there, just out of shot. And now starting the engine. That will get us out of this lock and then through the 2 bridges and then heading down towards the double locks. There's another set of 2 locks yet before you get to the sea lock. Tourists taking your picture as you leave. With it being a bit of a damp day, there's not that many tourists here. In the middle of the summer, it's absolutely crammed. That's the road bridge there, the green one, that's just passing by us now. And shortly we'll see the rail bridge as well. And that's the rail bridge. So Bannerby is quite a popular spot with the tourist trade, and not only because they come to see the Neptune staircase, but crossing over the little rail bridge there is what has become known as the Harry Potter train, which is the Hogwarts Express steam train. So in the summer, Bannerby is very, very busy, and there are literally hundreds of people stood around at each lock. lockkeeper was continually pushing them back from the edge to stop them behaving like lemmings. And we're heading down the ridge now towards the double lock, which is the lock before the sea lock. Panning round here to our port side, and that is Loch Linney disappearing in the mist there. Not a lot to see today. The headland you can see on the right is actually the Morven Peninsula, and ahead of us there is the big steel ketch we shared the lock with, which is Discovery she's called. Entering the lock now. As I said, this is a double lock, and in case you're wondering, when we were looking back on our last little shot there, we did the panoramic, how can we run alongside the sea? I spoke to the sea lock keeper a couple of years ago about it, and he said that when they were building the canal, they couldn't find anything but solid bedrock, so that this is why, if you look on a chart, it seems to go away from the sea, because it was the first bit of soft ground they could find to dig into to build the lock system. So they would have had, if they'd have gone the way they wanted to go, only ever have access at the very top of the tide. And we're now exiting the bottom of the double lock and into the sea lock reach here. And I've already been told that there's just us and the Bavaria behind us going to sea lock. The big catchers decided to go for fuel. There's a fuel berth in the sea lock. Sorry, in the sea lock basin. And a wee panorama for you of the sea lock basin. And as we mentioned earlier, this is you looking out to sea, so the canal is actually running adjacent to the sea along. There's the Morven Peninsula again. And all good Scottish weather ahead. Entering the sea lock now.
we doing? I thought you took a job at railway when I seen them colours.
And that's the sea lock gate just opening now. This is us back to sea again.
Thank you very much, sir. Cheers now.
And the white building you can see there is actually the Canal office. So if you're coming east to west, that's where you go and pay your dues for your transit. But don't worry, they won't let you through till you've paid. We'll swing to port now, and then that's us at sea. And here we are in the channel, and if you look behind us, that's the canal. See the voyage and the islands, and obviously, seeing as you're heading out to sea, you keep these buoys on your starboard hand. And that mast you can see in front of us is Fort William, and we are briefly going to be under sail until we round the corner and meet this. So down there is the Corran Narrows, and back there behind us is Fort William. And this is further down. The Corran Narrows down there, when I actually got there, it was wind over tide and basically more or less a wall of white water, so that idea was put to bed. And this is us on a mooring at Corran. And it's actually the first time I've ever stopped here in all the times I've transited the canal. It was really very, very peaceful, believe it or not, even though it was pretty wild on the other side of that peninsula there. We stayed here overnight, and we went through the Narrows the next afternoon with the tide. That's you looking towards Fort William. And the white building next to the pier is a hotel if you fancy a beer. Right in the middle of the camera shot now. And there's a ferry goes backwards and forwards across the Corran Narrows, so make sure you don't get in his way.